It is 2025 and we are back for the UFC for the first event of the year. Now it has just taken place. I have just wrapped up my Fight Companion and I'm here to break down the main card as well as give a couple of honorable mentions to some prelims for you guys about this event. It was honestly really fun and there was some awesome finishes that I was not expecting to see, especially for a card that a lot of people were shitting on, being like, wow, we've got a WMMA Apex card as the first thing to introduce us back to the UFC in 2025. Yeah, right, this is going to be sick. But it was flames. So we're going to jump straight into it. I'm going to start with the honorable mentions of the prelims, and then I'll go from the main event down to the bottom of the main card. So let's start. Honorable mentions were just some fun moments in the prelims, okay? One was the knockout by Jacob Smith, who got a KO over Preston Parsons. Don't have much to say about it, just want to make a note of how fucking brutal it was, because it was a one-shot clean connection that just absolutely mauled Preston Parsons. I believe he fell into the cage, and from there, it was basically over almost immediately. This was in a minute. Yep. I believe that's correct, a minute, right? Yes, it was a minute into the round. Took him almost no time, and Jacob Smith is now in the UFC 10-0. So, fucking oath. And then above that, we had Felipe Burns getting a round one submission over Jose Johnson, which was so satisfying to watch, dude. Because I'm so sick of these ridiculous height bullies, okay? Weight bullying is one thing. Height bullying is another, dude. The Sean Woodsons and the Jose Johnsons need to get the fuck out, bro. You're 6 foot tall and you're fighting at 125, dude. That's mental. Felipe Burns is 5'7", gets it done. Round one submission, rips his arm in half. Oh, it didn't actually break his arm, but you know what I mean. Armbar finish, and yeah, man, glad to see it. Glad to see it. Good. Oh no, not Felipe Burns. Sorry, Felipe Bunez is his name. Bunez. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but yeah. Anyway, good stuff. We'll move on to the main card now. So Mackenzie Dern makes her first 2 in a row fight streak that she has had in, I think it's about 3 years since 2021 when she suffered her second UFC loss. She had one loss to Amanda Ribas, went on a fight streak of like 5 or 4 or so, and then ever since then she's been like loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, until she beat Lupi Godinez in her last fight, and now she's beaten Amanda Ribas. So, round 3 submission, it was really enjoyable to watch. That's one thing I have to mention. The fight was slow at times. First round and second round had a lot of moments of control time. That was a fair bit of stalling involved. But in that third round, Mackenzie Dern really took it to Ribas in the grappling and just decided, fuck this, like, I'm going to maul you on the mat. And mostly did it for almost the entire last part of the round, especially. And then she has like a minute left and she's chasing this armbar and she's getting really close to getting it and it's just not quite working. So she transitions into full mount because the position's right there for her to grab a hold of. Gets it, gives a little bit of ground and pound kind of issues to Ribas to make her worry, to give her something else to focus on, and then threatens the armbar again. Doesn't jump on it immediately though, just kind of shows like a bit of a twist. Ribas might not have even actually noticed that she kind of did that. Might have been something you can only really see watching from a third person perspective. But then she kind of gives up on it, doesn't chase it immediately, just kind of looks at it a couple times, goes okay, and then just starts hammer fisting the shit out of Ribas, and then quickly yeets herself back into that armbar position. And then she's just got like just the tiniest little grip of Ribas holding onto her own forearm to stop this armbar. And there's like 15 seconds left in the round, and I'm sitting there like, Dern, I said earlier, Dern, you got to stop this armbar, probably because I don't know if you're going to be able to get it in the last minute. And then she did. I was like, yeah, good job. Get some ground and pound from your top position, win yourself the round. And then she goes to chase it again. I'm like, hey, you know what? You've won yourself the round now. You've got some damage as well. If you want to try and get this submission in the last couple seconds, be my fucking guest. And what do you know? 15 seconds left, she grabs a hold of it, and I'm just looking at Ribas's hands and the position, and I see how tiny and how like minimal that grip is on her own forearm, holding onto it so that she doesn't get her arm ripped over to be, I think it was this arm actually, ripped across to be extended out and then have to tap to it. But there's like 10 seconds left. It's literally right at the end of the round. And then Dern just decides, fuck it, just leans back. She hasn't even broken the grip yet. Just leans back and pulls, and then hammer fisting a little bit on the way down, and that just stops Ribas from actually being able to hold onto that grip that she's holding onto her own forearm, and just slowly slips, and let's go. And then just too late. Arm's gone, and then she taps. Literally 4 seconds left in the round. Apparently it was 4 minutes 56 seconds. So great job by Mackenzie Dern. Good shit. It was awesome to see her get a cool finish again. The jiu-jitsu style finishes is what she's been good at. I don't know if she's even got any knockouts in the UFC. But even though her striking didn't look that great this fight, there wasn't a whole lot of moments where she was getting exposed on the feet. Let me just say that, She looked okay overall. So, good stuff, and it was honestly an enjoyable watch. Aside from the slow moments throughout the fight, like I mentioned, it's a WMMA fight with someone who's a grappler, especially. I come into it kind of expecting there to be some lulls and some lack of action at times. So, regardless, it was very fun, and I was very happy with the result. It was very fun to see. It would have been cool to have seen Ribas make it out of that into the next round, and maybe we could have seen if she had have come back from that, but evidently she just could not escape the jiu-jitsu threat that Dern has, being that she's been a jiu-jitsu athlete even before she was in the UFC, or I think even before she was a professional MMA fighter, right? So yeah, good stuff from Mackenzie Dern. We'll move on to the co-main event now. So this one was a bit of an awkward finish, but the actual sequence of events was somewhat clean, So Santiago Ponzinibbio gets a round 3 knockout over Carlston Harris. Now, Ponzinibbio was in some rough waters at the start of this fight. I think he got dropped 3 times, at least twice in the first round, I believe. And he nearly got KO'd in that first round. But he got back up and collected himself, and I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought the fight was going to end there. But Ponzinibbio made it to the second round. I believe even did better in the second round and possibly even won the second round. Because I'm pretty sure it was 1-1 going into the third. And then in that third round, Ponzinibbio really stuck it to Harris. Harris wasn't completely out of the game, but he was really starting to lack and fall behind a little bit in that third round. And then right in that last maybe 2-minute period, it really started to pour on for Ponzinibbio, and he was clipping Harris really, really cleanly across the chin. And one of those shots, right as we got to just before the finish, Ponzinibbio clips Harris and it drops him straight down onto his knees and his hands. And Harris gets back up to his feet and gets clipped again. And then Harris is actually there, to be fair, and he kind of starts throwing back, but he's been hurt multiple times prior to this. And this is only within like a minute. This isn't like minutes ago he got hurt. He gets hurt, kind of gets back onto his feet a little bit, looks ridiculously shaky, and then like 30 seconds later gets dropped badly, and then gets up to his feet but kind of gets up against the cage and covers up. And the ref's kind of already running towards Ponzinibbio, like trying to stop the fight, but Ponzinibbio is running too fast away from the ref towards Harris up against the cage to realize, and then the ref has to kind of get around them, and Harris actually does begin to return fire right as the ref stops the fight. So that's a bit unfortunate, and it's a bit weird to see that. I guess he was still somewhat capable there of offense, but he wasn't being defensively sound. That's the difference. And he did get dropped really badly before that, and the ref clearly already wanted to stop that. So it's a weird stoppage, but ultimately I did think that Ponzinibbio was about to murder Harris. So it's weird because the kind of same thing almost happened to Ponzinibbio in the earlier rounds, but it's the judge's call, not mine, and I think it was decent. It wasn't the worst stoppage, especially because, like I said, the judge clearly wanted to stop it already by the time Ponzinibbio had dropped Harris. So good job for Santiago Ponzinibbio, and unlucky for Carlston Harris, unfortunately, but they are both kind of unks, so it doesn't really matter ultimately that much for the progression of divisions and rankings and stuff like that. Now, I came into this fight saying, boys, expect 2 things to happen in this fight. 1, somebody's going to get fouled. 2, someone's getting knocked out in the first round, okay? And one of those things happened, and somebody got knocked out in the first round, okay? Cesar Almeida KOs Abdul Razak Al Hassan fucking cold in the first round. So I actually did see what I thought, okay, was Abdul Razak Al Hassan grabbing the cage at one point. That's the only thing that I saw that I thought was a foul, and I did call that out in the middle of the fight. I said, hey, he's grabbing the cage. I don't know. I was only about 80% sure because you can only see so much when it's just like the when it's just like their glove is closed and it looks like their fingers are interlocked, but it's kind of hard to tell whether their fingers are actually locked in the cage when like you can only see the back of their knuckle. But regardless, I don't think he did, and even if he did, it didn't actually get him any advantage. But the knockout itself was insane. So Abdulrazak Alhassan dropped Cesar Almeida early in the round badly, and I'm like, oh, okay, Almeida's awake. Not for long though, because Abdulrazak Alhassan is going to follow him down and hit him with some kind of fucking gang beating or something. He's just going to get on the ground and just fucking pummel him with shit, because that's the way Alhassan fights. He fights like a street fight. Once it gets aggressive, he just starts fucking winging hooks at you and overhands. That's all he does. Massive hooks and overhands. And then when you're on the ground, it's just like whoosh, whoosh, like ridiculous, like shovel uppercuts or like massive hammer fists, or he's like raining elbows, as like we saw against Cody Brundage. But he couldn't actually get the finish. He couldn't chase Cesar Almeida to a finish enough before Almeida go back up to his feet. And that's when I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting. I kind of thought the fight was essentially over there. Fast forward about 2 or 3 minutes, and Alhassan gets another good moment on Almeida, and he starts piecing him up a little bit, okay? Starts hitting him with the combinations, but then again, he just gets Street Fighter scrappy, and he's just swinging, man. There's not much technique or thought going into what he's doing. He's just swinging punches, dude. And that was the death of him, because Almeida covered up, got smart, and he throws a right hand, just misses, and that right hand sends him... You can barely hear me. That right hand sends Almeida all the way twisted down to one side, which means that this left hand is cocked and ready to just whoosh with your entire fucking body weight. Not just like a normal check hook, like literally the entire hip movement of your entire body weight coming back up to the center of mass and just boom, clean on Alhassan's chin. Not even like clipped him in the side of the head or like on the back, literally. And Alhassan just hits the fucking... I don't even know what you call it, but he's playing the invisible guitar, He fucking goes to sleep stiff and hits the mat, and he's just out cold. Arms up, stiff like that. So, brutal as shit, but I predicted it correct when I said one of these boys going to sleep in the first round. I can promise you that. So good shit from Cesar Almeida. Hopefully he can continue to be as good as he is being now with good knockouts and stuff. Preferably without the fouls would be good. Okay? Would be good. You didn't foul him in this fight. Good job. I was kind of more worried about Alhassan being the fouler, to be fair, in this one. But I had a feeling that both of them had the chance to fucking kick each other in the cock or scrape the other one's eye out or something. But didn't happen, which means we got a clean finish, which I'm glad for. So, congratulations to Cesar Almeida. Moving on. This fight was very fun and scrappy, okay? For the first 2 rounds, I had it actually 1-1. I scored the first round for Chris Curtis. It was very close, but I felt like just because of how much output he had and the amount of jabs he was landing and whatnot, and that his defense was pretty sound, he was making Kopylov miss a lot as well. I edged him that round. When it ended, I said it was really close and I wasn't entirely sure, but I edged it and gave it to Chris Curtis. However, second round comes up, Kopylov brings it back, wins that round. Oh no, sorry. Chris Curtis actually won the second round. Sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong round. Second round comes around, Chris Curtis gets better and gets faster and starts landing the jab more often. He cuts Kopylov open. I think he broke Kopylov's nose in that round too. And the numbers start to get very wide apart, okay? We're at a point where now Curtis is like 25 strikes ahead of Kopylov, and I think he was landing like 55% a pop, and Kopylov was landing like 35% a pop. I believe Kopylov was throwing more and landing less. I think I saw at one point they showed the strikes, and it was like 250. It was like 80 landed out of 250 for Kopylov, and it was something like 110 out of 200 for Chris Curtis. I think that's right, because that's about 55%. That's the second round, and he just walks away with it. At the end of the second round, I believe Kopylov had a little bit of a second wind, and he didn't get mollywopped the whole round, but he did lose that round very, very clearly. And then third round comes around, and he starts winning the round, Kopylov this is, and he actually kind of pretty clearly is winning this round, if you ask me. Curtis is still there and fighting. Kopolov's really starting to walk away with a lot more defensively sound, clipping Curtis with big shots. He got Curtis on shaky legs, wobbling around on multiple occasions. I think he even might have had Curtis like stumble down to a knee or something like that at one point. I could be wrong, but I believe Curtis, maybe he just kind of did a shaky leg dance and didn't actually fall down. But he clipped Curtis with one thing that he did recover from, but for about 5-10 seconds, Curtis looked like, is he going to fall over on his own here, or is he going to recover here? Because it looked like he was going to trip over just by himself after he got hit with that. And then, last 15 seconds of the round, they just decide to stand in the middle, get a bit scrappy, and all of a sudden, Kopylov whips up a fucking head kick from hell, and it just fucking... I don't even know what you'd call that part of your leg, but ignore my pajama pants, but like... that fucking bit of your foot right there. It's not your shin, but it's also not like your foot. It's this little bit in between right there. And it just connects clean right on the fucking side of the neck and jaw of Curtis. He goes down immediately onto all fours, down on the mat. Arguably, this is what I said when I was watching it, I think that Curtis would have won the fight if he just got up, or if Kopylov chased him down to the mat. Now, I think the entire thing that won Kopylov this fight, granted, I'd like to point out that after this fight happened, they did say that actually the judges had it 1-1 going into the third round, so evidently the judges gave Kopylov the first round, which I did not, so that's neither here nor there, but Kopylov actually would have won that decision because he won the third round and the judges gave him the first. But I thought Chris Curtis was going to win that decision. So arguably, it doesn't actually matter for Chris Curtis because he got finished, yeah, sure, but it would have been a decision regardless 3 seconds later. It was a finish, you know? It was either you lost a decision where you got knocked out in the last 3 seconds but totally were fine, you know? Or you get knocked out right at the end of the fight and then they go, yeah, that's it. And then you would have lost the decision anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now, this is where I wanted to point out, and I did point out in my live stream, this is an example of where walk-off KOs are actually needed, okay? There is really bad examples of walk-off KOs, and the example that I gave was Moicano versus Jalen Turner. If Jalen Turner just chased Moicano down to the mat, okay, regardless of Moicano's jiu-jitsu credentials off his back, there's like a second or two, maybe 3 seconds, where the guy takes a minute to really rekindle his brain inside of his skull and actually get coherent and be like, okay, my guard is up, I'm ready, you know, I know what I'm doing. That's when you have a moment to get in there, even before you get into his guard and chase some ground and pound. You can fucking Superman your way down into one shot and hope that you manage to land that shot. Jalen Turner, being 6'3", could have absolutely thrown the most monstrous fucking whoosh down onto Jalen Turner on the mat. But he didn't. He walked off. And Moicano, very smartly, got his wits about him. Put his guard up, put his hands behind his head, and goes, hey, look, I'm fine. I'm not hurt. You're going to have to come and get me, bro. I'm not hurt. And the ref looks at him, goes... He looks at Jalen, he's like, you gonna go get him? He's not done, look at him. He's got his eyes open, he's got his feet up, he's ready. You know, he's ready for you to come in into his guard. That's all you need to do as the guy on the bottom. If Curtis had have simply just rolled over to his back, I think, and put his legs up, open up a guard, I don't know if they stop it. And secondly, if Kopylov chases Chris Curtis to the ground, I don't know if they stop it. I don't think they do stop it if he chases Chris Curtis to the ground. But it's because he hits Chris Curtis like that. It's the mixture of all these things. Curtis, down on all fours, not getting up at all, okay? Mixed with Kopylov landing the kick, whoosh, and immediately just turning and walking away. Immediately, not even like going like, yeah, is that good, ref? Okay, he just lands it and goes... And I think that sways the ref a bit. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that this is like a unfair advantage that Kopylov managed to give himself or something like that. It's just smart. This is when walk-offs are good. You got to hit the walk-off KO when the guy isn't going to get up. Now, he could be capable of responding like Curtis was. He was probably pretty capable of rolling over to his back and responding. But He just didn't do that. He didn't give the clear signs that I'm ready to keep fighting. And I don't know if he did that because he knew the fight was going to end in 3 seconds. So he thought he didn't need to. But when you get knocked down with a head kick and you go fucking onto your hands and knees and you've got your back turned to the guy that just head kicked you and he's got his back turned to you because he's walking away, it looks like you just got knocked out, man. It does. And the ref's looking at that, he's like, you're not intelligently defending yourself. That is my criteria as a referee when I decide who wins a fight based on a finish for a KO or TKO. Are you intelligently defending yourself? If the answer is no, I don't care what the clock says. I'm waving off the fight. It can be 1 second, it can be 2 seconds. It says here that apparently it was 4 minutes 59 seconds. It wasn't. It was like the ref probably waved it at like 4:58, 4:59, but it was at like there was like 5 seconds left, 4 seconds left when Kopylov hit him with the kick. And Curtis was on his back with like 2 seconds left, and then the ref comes over, goes, okay, and waves it off, you know? But again, like I mentioned before, interesting to know that it actually would have been Kopylov's decision win anyway, because he won the first round on the judges' scorecards, which is weird. I did say at the start that it could have been let me quickly Google it now and see if I can actually find Roman Kopylov versus Chris Curtis scorecards. I said that the first round could be a split. The first round could be one that goes either way. Maybe 2 judges say it for one, maybe 1 judge says it for another. But no, all 3 judges gave Kopylov that first round. And then all 3 judges gave gave Curtis the second round. Very interesting. Yeah, well, that's just the story of it, man. Those striking numbers in the third round and the amount of control and damage and stuff that Kopylov is doing in the third round was much above what he was doing in the earlier rounds. And that is inevitably, I'm going to say, would have won him the decision, even if he didn't get this finish. So, it is what it is. It sucks for Chris Curtis, but he tried to blame the ref, and then even his coach. What's his coach's name? He's Strickland's coach as well. Extreme Couture, redhead guy. Can't remember his name. He's also Ngannou's coach. Eric Nixick. Was like also complaining about like, they do this every fucking time to you, man. Like, I know Chris Curtis has had some bad decisions and moments and stuff like that, and like awkward results in fights. This isn't one of them. I'm sorry. This isn't one of them, especially because he was going to lose the decision. He was about to lose the decision. Now, you could argue that that's an incorrect decision. Sure. If you want to argue that you can, but you have to argue 2 points then. You have to say, A, that shouldn't have been a finish, and B, the judges were wrong. So you're just blaming everyone at this point, which sucks because it's possible that you're right. It's possible that the judge shouldn't have stopped it, and the ref shouldn't have stopped it, and it's possible the judges should have seen that first round for Chris Curtis, but they didn't. They're both against you here. You're not arguing against one person's call. You're arguing against 4 people's calls. The ref and all 3 judges all said that this is a finish, and that first round is Kopylov's. That means it was impossible for Curtis to win regardless at the end of that round. Even once there was like a minute left, Kopylov had already won the round based on that, and it was pretty much too late from there on. So Chris Curtis obviously cannot be aware of that during the fight, but he still he complained a shit ton about it afterwards. I can't hate him. Apparently this was his last fight on his UFC contract, so he might get cut. He might get cut from the UFC. What's his record? Ready? Let's find out what Chris Curtis's UFC record is. Chris Curtis in the UFC is at 5-4-1. Yeah, fuck, that sucks, hey. Oh yeah, because so he lost to Brendan Allen just before that. He was doing good at first, man. He came in, goes 1, 2, 3 wins, loses to Hermansson, beats Buckley, then loses to Gastelum, and then he has a no contest with Imavov, beats Barrio by a split decision in one of the shittest fights I've fucking watched, and then loses to Brendan Allen by split decision, and then gets KO'd by Kopylov, but arguably was about to lose a unanimous decision. Tough shit, man. It sucks. It really does suck for him. I mean, I can't, I can only be upset for him. I can't actually be upset about the fight because I loved the result and it was very entertaining and the right call got made. So I can feel bad for him, but I don't feel like the result should have changed. I don't think anything was done wrong. I don't think anybody made a bad call. So it is what it is. Chris Curtis, unfortunate. Roman Kopylov back in the win column, however, with a brutal KO. So I'm excited to see what they decide to do with him next. Possibly, maybe we have a Hernandez rematch in the future. Not next, I'm not saying that, but maybe if Kopylov is to rekindle a win streak, he could be dealing with that being one of his only losses. And if Hernandez is to make his way up middleweight with his fucking ridiculous cardio grappling style, like he has done with Michel Pereira, maybe we're going to end up seeing these two clash again later. I feel like we might, because I do think Kopylov is very dangerous and is going to continue to do very well. So, yeah. Good shit from Kopylov. Excited to see him continue. Below that, we had Christian Rodriguez versus Austin Bashi. This was a really fun fight, bro. Really fun fight. Christian Rodriguez has had some weird fights in his career with weight misses and then being called a weight bully and getting finished by guys he shouldn't be getting finished by. Didn't he lose to Julian Erosa? I believe he lost to Julian Erosa last time by finish, which is unfortunate one. It's like a Michael Johnson kind of loss, you know? Like the guy just is capable of getting finishes. Is not great competition, but man, if he locks something in on you, you're probably fucked. Or like same with Michael Johnson, if he clips you with something, you're probably fucked because he can just knock you the fuck out, dude. C-Rod though made it very fun, made this fight very fun. Austin Bashi making his UFC debut as a 13-0 guy, 23 years old, did incredible. I am very excited to see him continue in the UFC and his next fight in the UFC. He gave a great example of how to make grappling entertaining, because he was consistently looking for a single leg, a double leg, jumping on a body lock, pulling you down to the mat. He's jumping onto your back while you're standing. He's locking in body triangles from multiple different positions. He's slipping off of C-Rod's back on multiple occasions and then just manages to grab onto like a power half, hold onto his arm so that he can manage to keep his weight up top distributed. I really enjoyed watching Bashi's style. I found it very entertaining, and that's how you grapple fun, okay? That's how you grapple fun. But C-Rod was very, very defensively smart and just constantly was being the antithesis to everything that Bashi was doing. Just constantly being able to scramble, roll over on his head and do like a fucking breakdancing move and end up on top position. Hit a fucking hip sweep on Bashi while he's going for a takedown, end up on top position. He hit so many beautiful sprawls that like he was deep in on takedowns. Bashi was deep in on takedowns, and even C-Rod's weight is like tilted back, so he's got all of his weight going backwards, which is what you want if you're Bashi. You want the guy's weight to be going backwards over his, you want his upper body torso weight to be behind his knees so that he's about to fall over backwards and you can collect his legs easily. Multiple times that happened, and then C-Rod just forces his hips down and just says fuck no and just smashes his fucking cock into the mat and just goes, nah, we're going right down here, we're not going anywhere. And his like legs are just straight out, just scraping across the mat, and very, 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 very efficient and technical sprawls from C-Rod. So that was really interesting to see. And in that third round, man, it was very entertaining. Bashi had good moments, but I think they scored it 29-28. I feel like watching it, it was really close, and I said that one of those rounds could have been for Bashi, but I wasn't sure. I was a bit too focused in enjoying the fight, though, because it was a very action-packed fight. Lots of good moments, lots of scrambles, like I said, from Bashi, and he still wasn't afraid to be on the feet with C-Rod at times. He would chase a lot of takedowns, but he wouldn't just constantly re-enter and re-enter and re-enter the way that Merab does or someone like that, you know? But he's done really well. For a 23-year-old making his UFC debut against C-Rod, who is known for killing hype trains and ending contenders' win streaks. Fair enough to have done that well against him, you know? Let's have an example. Let me look at C-Rod and see who he actually did bring to a stop. So he stopped the hype train of Raul Rosas. He stopped the hype train of Cameron Simon. That's it. Both back-to-back and both with weight misses, which is unfortunate. He killed two hype trains undefeated records with overweight miss performances. And this time, he did it again. And Isaac Dalgarian was 6-0, and he beat him by a split decision. And then he loses to Julian Erosa after that. But then Austin Bashi, 13-0, even bigger record than all those other guys that he took the O's of, and manages to take his O as well. At this point, C-Rod is just the contender killer. I'm glad he's at 145 now. That's his weight class. He's missed weight 3 times for 135 in the UFC, or twice in the UFC, once in the contender series. So I don't know why they even let him go back to 135 after he missed it the third time. The second time. Third time, obviously, they told him, fuck off, go up to featherweight. I think we're going to see an interesting career from C-Rod in featherweight. He looks good in this weight class. He looks... I don't know if there's... I can remember him looking bad in any aspects based on having the big weight cut and being down in the low weight class. But he certainly looked very, very there today. Everything was on point. Everything was on point. He was clean. He was fast. He was reacting great. His defense was incredible. His takedown defense was incredible too. Overall, great performance from C-Rod. I loved it. This made me quite a big C-Rod fan. I already knew of him and liked him, but like I said, his bad record of weight misses and killing contenders records when he's had those weight misses and then losing to like someone like Johnny Rosa, like, was a very, very iffy kind of like... I had a very iffy ability to like him. You know, I wasn't really sure whether I did or didn't, or whether I was annoyed by performances or not. This was what he needed. I think he's going to have won a lot of fans over with this performance. It was very, very fun. He even had a few moments of taunting there. I think he hit a couple of like basketball air dribbling in the middle of the fight. So good stuff from C-Rod. We'll see where he goes at featherweight. They might give him... I reckon they give him one more contender at featherweight, and then you probably give him a ranked featherweight fighter, because I feel like he was ranked at bantamweight. No. Either he was ranked at bantamweight, or he fought someone ranked at bantamweight. No, he must have, because he didn't lose at bantamweight. He only missed weight. So let's see. Christian Rodriguez. Did any of those fights... Were any of those fights against a ranked person? Oh, no, because it was against Cameron Simon was his last one. Yeah, and Cameron Simon wasn't ranked. So no, he wasn't. But he was on a win streak there. He was, aside from losing to Jonathan Pierce in his debut, he goes 1, 2, 3 in a row at bantamweight. So they probably would have been considering giving him either one more and then a rank, or a rank would have been next. But he went up a weight class, fought Isaac Dalgarian, and then Julian Erosa wasn't ranked, was he? No, he's not ranked. He wasn't ranked when they fought. Yep. That's what I thought. So... he's now on a 1-fight win streak. He did go 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row before the Erosa fight. Granted, with the weight misses and moving weight class and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I think a ranked opponent next would be a bit too fast. I'm going to say one more contender in the unranked area. Maybe someone that's a bit of a big name in the unranked. Maybe like a Brito. Do like a Christian Rodriguez versus Joe Anderson Brito or something like that. I don't think Brito's ranked yet, right? I don't think so. Could be wrong. Let me double check right now. But I think that could be fun. That's a good one. Two big names, and they're both very, very like tough guys in the unranked that kind of beat up on some of these other guys. Yeah, so he's not ranked. So I think that's the fight to make. Joe Anderson Brito versus Christian Rodriguez. And Brito just lost a bullshit decision, right, to someone. Who did Brito just lose a bullshit decision to? Brito just lost to William Gomez, and he didn't lose. And before that, he lost to Bill Algeo in his debut after beating Diego Lopez in the Contender Series. And then he goes Andre Fili, Lucas Alexander, Weston Wilson, Jonathan Pierce, Jack Shaw. All by finish. 5 finishes in a row. And then he gets given a bullshit decision against William Gomez. So, unfortunate. But I think you do right now. Joe Anderson Brito versus Christian Rodriguez. Winner gets a ranked fight. And lastly, we have just a quick one to mention. Literally nothing to say about it besides mentioning it. Punahele Soriano versus Uros Medic. Now, Punahele Soriano has been in the UFC for a long time, which I did not fucking know. I saw the guy and I was like, I don't know if I've seen him before. You could have told me that he was one fight out of his Contender Series. Or he's only his second fight in the UFC. I would have believed you. But no, he's 5-4 in the UFC, which is already a kind of a questionable record. And he's got a lot of losses in a row. So he came in, got 2 wins in a row, and then lost 2 in a row, including a Brendan Allen loss. Then he got a win again, and then he loses to Kopolov and Dustin Stoltzfus, both by finish. Then after that, he gets a win over Miguel Beza by decision, and now he got this round 1 KO over Medic. So he is back on a win streak for the first time since he got to the UFC, since 2021, 4 years ago. So yeah, that's very good for him. He's going to hopefully be able to carry a bit of momentum there, especially considering it was a 31-second KO, which was just one beautifully placed shot. That's all it took. One beautifully placed shot, just. And Uros Medic is just down, and he's moving backwards, I believe. He's always like moving backwards, and he has a lot of momentum going backwards. And when he gets clipped, Medic just and just falls all the way backwards, and like, I think he fell into the cage even. And Soriano chases him to the mat, and as soon as Soriano hits him with like 2 shots, I'm like, Medic is asleep. Medic is asleep already. And from that moment on, Soriano hits like a boom, 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 boom. Ref steps in. He hits like 5 or 6 more shots after that. Turns out I was wrong. On the replay I watched, Medic was awake when he hit the mat. He was like essentially asleep on his feet, and then when he hit the mat, kind of woke up, or possibly was still asleep, but then the first ground and pound shot may have woken him up, because after that either second or third shot from Soriano, you see Medic's face. You see a quick glimpse of his face in amongst the scrap, and you see his eyes open and him like moving his head, like trying to posture or something like that, or trying to do something, and then he gets hit with like 1 or 2 more, and then he's got an arm up and you just see his arm go limp, and then 1 or 2 more shots from Soriano and the ref steps in. So I didn't notice that the first time. I thought it was like 5 or 6 unanswered shots and the ref just wanted Medic to die, but it was a much better call than I had anticipated, because the ref was above him, so we could obviously see Medic being awake or asleep, and noticed that Medic was still awake after the first 2 ground and pound shots or whatever, and then that like 3rd or 4th shot puts him out, and there was 1 or 2 more follow-up shots, and the ref is like, yeah, that's it, we're done. Brutal KO. This card had a lot of very fun KOs. So we had Ponzinibbio's KO, we had Ponzinibbio's KO was questionable, but Almeida's KO, Kopolov's KO, and Soriano's KO, and I believe and then Preston Parsons. Jacob Smith knocking out Preston Parsons as well earlier in the card. This card had a lot of fun finishes, honestly. And who else did we have? So Marco Tullio beat Ihor Potieria as well by knockout. Kind of bullshit though. Ihor got fouled twice in a row, and then like 10 seconds after they resumed the fight, he gets clipped and knocked out. It's not an unfair finish at all. It's totally legal, everything he did. Other way around. It's not an illegal finish. Like, everything he did was totally legal, but it is very unfair. Like, it's so bad to kick a dude in the dick twice, and then coming back from that. Oh, it might have even been a dick kick and then an eye poke, but it was 2 fouls. One of them at least was a dick kick. And then as soon as they come back from that foul, Potieria just gets clipped, and then that's it. Like, he gets followed down to the mat, and he's trying to defend himself kind of. He's rolling around a lot. He even tried to posture up and throw up an armbar at one point. Wasn't enough though. He was accepting too much damage and clearly just too dazed in the moment to respond efficiently. And yeah, that was the end of it, honestly. There were just a couple of ground and pound shots, and the referee was like, yeah, look, Potieria is not scrambling enough to get back to a good position. He's still stuck down on his knees with his head on the mat, getting hit. It's over. Overall though, card was great. Had a great time. Was pleasantly surprised. I was very pleasantly surprised with how good this card was, considering it was a WMMA rematch main event in the Apex as the first card back, with a unranked welterweight uncles co-main event. Pretty much everything that you can possibly do to make a card look bad from the outside, this did. But it ended up being very fun. Lots of very good finishes and lots of very good scraps. There was minimal bad fights. Early in the prelims was meh. You know, they weren't necessarily bad fights, but the first 2, Fatima Klein and Victoria Dudkova, was pretty boring, and the finish wasn't. It was very abysmal. Nurolo Aliev versus Joe Selecki was kind of boring as well. Aliev sat on top of him for a long time. Bruno Lopez versus Gadzhizulov was also kind of boring. It was alright. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Karis Karte versus Cagliari was okay. I didn't mind it. I didn't watch the entire fight, but it was a lot more of a striking fight, and obviously because Karis Karte, whatever, is tall as fuck, so she's going to be a striker. And Moises versus Ogden was okay too. Guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, chuck on notifications for future breakdowns, predictions, whatever it's going to be. Speaking of predictions, next week we have UFC 311, so be sure to join me for my fight companion then, as well as check out the prediction video that will be coming before that event. I will do a big breakdown of probably every single fight on the card for the most part. Even the early prelims, we've got like Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter, Ricky Tercios versus Bernardo Sopage, Nakamura versus Gufarov is okay, Rosa versus Perez is okay, and then we've got Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. That's a fun fight. We've got Zachary Reese. That's fun. Almeida versus Spivak is meh. Peyton versus Barcelos. Peyton Talbot versus Rani Barcelos. Sweet. And Johnny Walker versus Bogdan Guskov got cancelled. But from Peyton Talbot onwards, it is just flames, dude. Prelims and early prelims are okay, not bad. But aside from hopefully the Bogdan Guskov fight either gets replaced with someone else, or if they cancel it, then that's fine. Sucks, but you know, as long as they don't put a shitty fight above that, is what I'm saying. You've got Peyton Talbot back to back with Kevin Holland versus Derrida, to Dariush Moicano, Prohaska Hill, Merab Umar, Islam Arman. What? That's literally like 4 to 5 hours of just non-stop really good fights. We got our work cut out for us next week, boys and girls. So I hope you guys did enjoy this event and this video, and I'll see you all next week for that card. It's going to be very fun. Keep an eye out as well. There's going to be a big finishers compilation video coming out soon. I don't know, can't promise when it's going to be. It's taking forever to edit. It's literally like 90 fights of me reacting to the ends of finishes, submissions, knockouts, whatever it is. It's going to be a really long video, maybe like more than half an hour, more than 40 minutes possibly. I will have to see. I don't even know if it's going to come out this month, because it might take a long time to edit in between UFC events that are happening, but we will see. So keep an eye out. There's lots of fun stuff coming this year, guys. Upgrading the channel a little bit, getting some more cleaner stuff. I'm going to try and revamp a little bit of the brand and whatnot, but I'm going to stop yapping now. I've been talking for a long time. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you did enjoy. I'll see you guys all in the next Mixed Martial Arts video. Goodbye.